Well...
Hey toy fans, Aaron here. Today taking a look at the vintage collection release of The Mandalorian from, well, The Mandalorian. The card back has a great image, looks like it was taken directly from the show and not the usual Photoshop work we get. And of course through the blister you see the figure with included accessories. On the back side, upper right corner, you got the number in the lineup, which is 166. Top half shows 8 relatively current figures in the line. Top 4 are the ones from this wave, and the bottom 4 I think was the previous wave of figures. And of course, bottom half is just your legal information. And taking a look at the figure out of the packaging, overall, just a very stunning looking action figure. It's not to say there's some faults with it, and it's going to come down to your preferences of figures, or types of figures. And I might as well just get into that point. For me, I love the molded cape that drapes around his neck and down through the back. Really hugs along the figure well, has some great folds and various ruffles in the fabric to give it that very nice draped look. And as I mentioned, it hugs the figure well, so it stays right along his backside and then drapes off a little bit off to the side as it heads down one of his legs. But you're going to get a trade-off with this. One that you'll see when I go through the accessories, and that is his sniper rifle does not drape across the back like he wears it in the show, but instead sits vertically along his back. The other more noticeable part, though, is I do feel like it makes the head of the figure sit a little bit higher. He's got a little bit of an elongated neck. Now, the added benefit of having that elongated neck is that the head still maintains its range of motion for the articulation, and you'll see that in a bit. So for me, I am generally a person that likes the molded capes over the cloth capes, so I don't mind the trade-off. It is pushing it a little bit for the way that gap in the neck area looks. Any taller, and then I probably would have preferred a cloth cape. But again, all of that is just my own personal preference, especially since these figures, for me, just sit on my shelf. Looking in at the sculpting for the helmet, overall, maybe the silver tone could be a little bit too dark in comparison to how it looks in the show. But then again, his helmet is very reflective, so it's hard to really gauge how dark it should be or how light it should be. Otherwise, though, detailing within the sculpt looks great. Very nice metallic silver paint job and a very nice dirt wash across the helmet, and that runs above the visor and through the top, and it looks great. Black painting staying definitely where it needs to be. Through the arms and chest, everything looking great here and seems quite accurate to how it looked in the show. The placement of the various colors looks good. The shoulder on his right arm has some good placement of that blue and cream color. I would have liked to have seen some of the paint chipped away here and painted silver, but that wasn't done. Very minor. I do find it interesting that maybe they sculpted some of those indents into the plastic for that armor. Got a little round indent right above the line where the blue starts, and then on the very front edge down towards the bottom, it looks like similar chip style that you see on the photo of the character. It's not a make or break situation that it wasn't painted, and maybe it's just coincidental that the plastic is molded that way. But I like to think that they did intentionally put those in there. Otherwise, the undersuit, nice gray color to it. Various folds that you're used to seeing for the plastic fabric. Gauntlet on both arms looks great. The brown coloring matches well with the rest of the brown coloring. Good painting for the yellow tipped fingers on his gloves on each hand. And even the blue triangles on the back of his hands look good. The upper armor on his left shoulder, great silver chip painting in there. Within the chest, you got nice layering going on here with the outer armor being painted brown. Nice battle damage effect painted in with the silver coloring of the paint. You got a bandolier running over his shoulder, running down to his belt. He has some nice detailing for the sculpt within that. And that is not removable. That's molded down in around his waist with the belt running through there. And then for that holster belt, things also looking good. Nice silver coloring being used for the buckle, some grommets, and maybe some blaster cartridges or something off on the screen left side. And you got a functioning holster for the small blaster that he comes with. And then getting down to the legs of the figure, things are still looking pretty accurate. Nice use of colors being used for the piece of armor over his right thigh. And that cream color for his left one. Undersuit for the legs looks good. Still all that wrinkled fabric. And all the coloring between the legs and the various armor pieces, along with the armor pieces and the undersuit for the upper part of the figure, all seem to match up well. And then even on the bottom of the figure where you get into his boots, things look good. And some nice detailing for the cartridges that are wrapped around the top of a boot for his right leg. And great painting for the left leg, all those various colors in there. A lot of different textures being sculpted in, and I think it all looks good. As for articulation, head's going to rotate all the way around. Fair amount of nodding side to side and even up and down. Shoulders raise up a straight 90 degrees and you get your full rotation. Great range of motion at the elbows along with your swiveling. Both wrists swivel and both wrists hinge up and down. He had swiveling at the waist, and of course it is going to be a little bit limited because of the bandolier running over his shoulder, but I still think you get the range of motion that you want. And he can even lean side to side and crunch forward and back. At the hip, your legs swivel and rotate. You can even bring that leg forward a good 90 degrees. You have your rotation at the top of the thigh, a great bend at the knee, and also your rotation in there, and then a good range forward and back at the ankle along with your rotation. As for accessories, you got two of them. First up is sniper rifle. I love seeing this weapon in use in the show. And overall, the detailing to this is looking pretty good. I mean, you know, it is still for a 3 3/4 inch figure, but I think what we saw in the show is pretty well represented here. It's mostly painted in a metallic silver color with the brown at the stock end of the weapon. It sits in his hand well. You can achieve a double-handed pose with it. And then on the other side of the weapon, you're going to have a little peg sticking out that slots right into the back of his bandolier. As I mentioned earlier, it does not sit across the body like you see in the show, but in this case, it sits straight up and down. And then finally, he does come with a small blaster. Pretty decent silver painting, lighter in color than what his sniper rifle was done, and you're still getting some brown painted in at the handle. Overall detailing is looking pretty close to how it looked in the show. Fits well in his right hand where he does have his index finger ready to slide into that trigger area. And if you don't want him holding it, as I mentioned earlier, you can put it away in that holster on his right side of his hip. So overall for me, this is just a great looking figure. You know, the few little nitpicks that I mentioned, really I did it just more so to be thorough. None of it bugs me or makes me wish that they would make another figure and change it up a bit. Certainly for those of you that like the soft goods, you very well will probably feel different, and that's all right. But at the end of the day, I like what we were given, and I can only hope that they release the Razor Crest to put alongside this figure. So that wraps this one up. Definitely let me know what your thoughts are on this figure in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.